back to the Beeper Show.
Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Oregon's longest-running radio talk show, The Beeper Show, on KNND. The views and opinions you'll hear expressed during the following presentation do not necessarily reflect those of ownership, employees, or advertisers of this station.
And it is part 2 of our extended Beeper Show for this Wednesday morning, the 5th day of November, 11 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. Cameron Reiten, your host, joining you from behind the red door. You can listen to us on the air at AM 1400 or FM 99.7. Our Facebook live stream is up on the KNND page. You can also get us on the Southline TV translator, our home there, channel 47.4. And Dr. Bob Zybach is with me. Dr. Zybach is running as a candidate for the East Lane seat on the Board of Commissioners, vying to unseat Heather Buch next year. We heard from another candidate, Jake Pelroy, just in the last hour, and Dr. Zybach is with us to talk a little bit about his candidacy. Good to have you back on the program, Bob.
Thank you, Cameron. It's good to be here.
So you were with us a while back, but for people that may have missed that conversation, I want to just have you start off since you were last with us, you have officially announced, as has Mr. Pelroy at this point. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to throw your hat in the ring for this position.
Okay, I'm not a career politician. I'm 77 years old, but I've been involved in the forestry issue for more than 50 years, 20 years as a contractor, and more than a dozen years getting my PhD from Oregon State University. I was heavily involved in the spotted owl programs and politics of the 1990s, made a cover of a national magazine, and then became unemployable as we all went over to the Clinton Plan and the Northwest Forest Plan. So recently, with the change in administration in D.C., I saw real opportunity to restore our forest health, to reduce these wildfires, to put people back to work, and to create income for the county for tax relief for people.
So did you grow up here in Oregon?
Yes, I was born in Woodland, but when my ancestors moved there in the 1850s, it was still part of Oregon, and I've gone to school mostly in Oregon, Grant High School in Portland, and McNary in Salem, and Oregon State University.
Okay. And so obviously timber has been a big part of your life. You've done a number of publications.
I've written several books on the topic. Mostly my interest is in reforestation, restoring burned lands or reforesting logged off lands. So I've been a tree farm owner for a lot of years, but Spotted Owl took care of that. But yes, very interested in active forest management, forest recreation, access to the woods. And East Lane County has 1 million acres of national forest land and 300,000 acres of O&C land, and those are obligated by law to be producing an income for the county in which they're located. So that's where the county commissioner should come in.
So, okay, I was just going to ask you about that, because a lot of this stuff is federal policy and to a lesser extent state policy. So as a member of the Lane County Board of Commissioners, what do you think you could realistically do to increase timber harvest and jobs and the revenue that would bring in?
Well, there's two things. One, I'm a key member of the National Wildfire Alliance. We've been operating for 20 or 30 years, and we've got good contacts with D.C. These are county issues only insofar that in 1897, the Forest Service, our national reserves were created specifically to manage the forests actively, to produce products for the good of the American people. For 1905, it became the Forest Service. 1980, they said 25% of their revenue would go specifically to schools and roads, and they did that from 1908 until Spotted Owl. O&C lands, 1937, 50% since 1953 of their revenues go to the county, not specifically schools and roads. And so it's the county's business to monitor those funds and also to follow the amount of employment that O&C Lands and Forest Service is providing. And those have just fallen through the floor the last 30 years, and we have not had good county representation to restore those funds and those job opportunities.
So part of what you would see your role being would be to sort of hammer on the state folks and our congressional delegation to say, hey, we need some more sensible policies. We need this opportunity to bring back our local economy.
No, not really. The state folks, as we're talking about Kotek and Wyden and those people, they're not helpful. It's dealing directly.
But nonetheless, they're making a lot of the decisions.
No, they're not. That's a common misconception. The decisions are being made in Washington, D.C. by the Department of Agriculture and Department of Interior. And so the people that need to be contacted directly are the supervisor of the National Forest and the Secretary of the Department of Interior and the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture. So NWA is right now, we've sent out a proposed executive order, EO, to President Trump that's making it through the rounds. We're working through the chief of the Forest Service, but they're shut down now with the
government shutdown.
Government shutdowns. We've got Darren Harbeck and I have a meeting with the supervisor of the Willamette National Forest, and we'd like to see the Willamette National Forest become a national lead in restoring our forest lands, eliminating these wildfires, and eliminating the deadly smoke that's coming from them.
Yeah.
There's a misconception that the county makes a decision. The county's the beneficiary. There's a misconception the state makes a decision. The state just distributes the funds. The direct contact has to be with D.C. That's where the decisions are made. And then the people in the field, the supervisor makes the decisions on wildfires and cutting schedules and so on. And the rangers that work under them are the people that I've been meeting with and the people that make the decisions and can make a difference.
So it's a lot of talking with those folks then.
Yes, specific people that make the decisions. Yes.
Okay. Now, timber is often looked upon as something that's basically going to be our savior if we can ever bring it back. But with automation and everything that's happened over the last 40 years. We're never going to get back to our pre-spotted owl glory days, are we?
Well, we could very easily if we made that decision. There's automation has reduced the amount of jobs. Some people say 11 jobs per million board feet. Other people say automation is 8 jobs per million board feet. And to put that in perspective, BLM is supposed to be operating on a sustained yield by law. That means they're supposed to cut as much as they grow every year. They've been cutting less than 20% for the last several years because of spotted owl rationale. But that difference in cutting is like 700 million feet. Well, if we multiply by 8, that's 5,600 jobs. There are 18 O&C counties. Lane is one of those counties, but we're one of the 4 counties that get the bulk of the revenue and the bulk of the jobs. So any return to anywhere near a sustainable level, as required by law, would produce thousands of jobs and tens of millions of dollars for our county, for roads and schools especially, but also for police and for other operating costs.
Dr. Bob Zybach is with us, a candidate for the East Lane seat on the Board of County Commissioners. And if you would like to join the conversation with a question, please feel free to ring us up, 541-942-5548. Are there other sectors of the economy besides the forest products and timber that you would like to see built up and expanded on here in the county?
Well, housing is a big deal, so that means construction, and then transportation becomes a situation. The two opponents that I've heard from are Eugene people with city issues. One is garbage and recycling, a family business. The other one is homeless and cheap housing, a family business. And so they're looking for a Eugene-centric type of result, which requires more tax money. In East Lane County, the small businesses, recreational businesses have been shut down because of these fires. We've had record-setting fires for the last 10 years, record-setting smoke. Indications are 40,000 people a year in the United States are dying from wildfire smoke. So medical, Dairy Queens, restaurants, functional motels, all of those things would benefit by an increase in workforce and then increase in income, schools, parks, roads. So it's all of the above. It's not a timber issue. It's a forest management issue as described and required by law that we've been circumventing.
There's been a lot of effort put in over the last couple of decades to expanding our tourism economy. How do you feel about that?
My 4-year degree's in forest recreation, and it is a promotion. The recreational, they went, Oak Ridge went from the tree planting capital of the world to the mountain biking capital of the world and has gone slowly broke ever since. They've got most of the forest land where there would be a lot of good recreation in East Lane County, and we're talking, hundreds of thousands of acres, have burnt up in some of the worst fires in state history, and then they put up gates, and then they let the timber rot instead of creating thousands of jobs and millions of dollars for the county by salvaging the dead trees. We're spending tens of millions more letting them burn again, as we did with the Immigrant fire this year, or paying road crews, safety, fuel management to remove these old growth trees that were worth millions of dollars. Now we're paying millions of dollars to turn them into dead logs, rotting logs. I don't know what they're doing with them. They're letting them burn up again in a lot of places. Charlton area is just a desert now. It's burnt twice as a roadless area.
So tourism as an economic sector, how valuable do you think that is, given that it's a pretty cyclical type of industry? I've talked to, as I mentioned last hour with Mr. Pelroy, I've talked to a lot of restaurateurs and other small businesses that they bank on the money that they get during the busy summer months to help them make it through the rest of the year.
It's always been cyclical. I worked on the coast for 20 years, and in the summer with our reforestation crews, it was crowded. The highway was crowded, and the restaurants were crowded, and you had to wait in line at the grocery store, and in the winter it was dead. And so it is seasonal, but there are different types of recreation, skiing, fishing, hunting. So those things could be promoted, but we need to have our roads opened up again. We need our forests to be made safe again, not only for hunters and fishermen, but for deer and elk and grouse. They're getting burnt up. These critical habitats are critical in that they're killing millions of our wildlife with these wildfires.
Lane County and the state of Oregon in general is often criticized for being a very business unfriendly environment, no matter what your business happens to be. If you were on the board of Lane County Commissioners, what steps would you like to see taken to make the area more inviting to businesses?
If we can open up our forests again, businesses would proliferate. In 1920, the Forest Service put up a bid for 50 million board feet a year, and the town of Westford was created in 3 years. They didn't have a town there. Then they had tennis courts and schools and taverns and hundreds of people going to work. So creating jobs through as required by law. The Organic Act, the O&C Act, say that these lands are supposed to be managed for the advantage of the local people. They're supposed to be managed locally, and that would just be a boom. And just as in the past history of Lane County, whether it's been timber or mining or on the coast, commercial fishing, there have been boom times. And so that would be my approach.
All right, we have a phone call, so let's go ahead and bring up the listener line. Good morning. You are on the air with Commissioner candidate Dr. Bob Zybach.
Morning, gentlemen.
Hello, Larry.
Yeah, well, Cameron, take my word for it that this gentleman pretty much knows what he's talking about. I was in the sawmill business 37 years, and I went through the spotted owl crap. Yeah, he knows what he's talking about. I would like to get the gentleman's phone number or give him my phone number. I'd like to get in touch with him. Would that be possible?
Sure.
How do I want to do that?
Hi, Larry. My number is 541-505-1298. I prefer...
541, I'm slow.
Okay, 505...
505...
1298.
1298.
Yep.
Okay. Is that a long distance call or local or?
It's Cresswell.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, I will call you. My name is Larry Ross, and everything I hear you talking about is pretty much true. I've seen this automation put everybody out of work. You take a look at Weyerhaeuser out there. 1964, that whole plant site was full.
Yep.
Now there's nothing. You know, it's pretty bad. I just want to talk to you about some issues that you're talking about right now. One question I have for you. I'm hoping that you probably will beat Bucks out because I got no use for her. How do you feel about letting the people have a vote?
I think everything
That's
should...
my main question.
I think everything should be voted on local issues. TV Butte is a big issue in Oak Ridge and West Fir, and that's been my position when I talked with the city councils in both of those towns, is that I thought it should be a local vote, that it should be a democratic process, but I also thought that we need to have more working people in the community to make those votes. So 100% in favor of that, and also 100% agree with your assessment of spotted owl crap. That really did some serious damage to this state and this county and to our families and businesses. It's time to reverse it.
Thank you kindly.
Appreciate the call, sir.
You have a good day. Bye-bye.
We need to take a quick break, so let's do that, and we'll come back and chat further with East Lane County Commissioner candidate Bob Zybach. 27 minutes in front of the 10 o'clock hour. You've got the Wednesday morning Beeper Show, 54 degrees outside the KNND studios. Our guests today, East Lane County Commissioner candidate Dr. Bob Zybach, and I do have open phones, so if you want to jump in with a question, you're more than welcome to do that. 541-942-5548. Bob, let's talk about the county's budget woes. The county... They're going to be looking at trying to secure additional funding for public safety. There was the Public Safety Task Force that came out with a number of recommendations for possible new revenue sources. There's other parts of the county budget that county leaders are looking at filling some pretty big holes because you can only burn through reserves so long until you've run them dry. So what are your thoughts about prioritization of what resources we have? And how else should the county look to try to shore up those budget gaps?
Well, I think there's two things. One thing, we have the county commissioners voting themselves a $25,000 raise this year, so I haven't seen where they've done a heck of a lot on our timber industry or rebuilding Blue River, McKenzie River Valley, so I'm not sure what they did to deserve all that money. But number one, if I'm elected, that'd be my first proposal, is to rescind that gargantuan raise. But in order to raise revenues, we've got the Immigrant fire out there that just burnt 30,000 acres. The Tumblebug fire of 2009 was not salvaged. There's millions of dollars out there, hundreds of jobs that should be done now, should be done immediately. Just in other areas of the United States, tornado, flood, landslides, local people go in, they go to work, the federal government aids them. But in timber and forests, in our national forests, they burn up, and then they put a gate on the road, and then the environmentalists file a lawsuit, and then they have an EIS or an EA or some other acronym, and 3 and 4 years later, the timber has lost most of its value. Nobody's been working, and then we pay millions more to clean off the roads. So it's very simple to do to open up our forests again, as we did for generations, to pay the bills, and to also look a little bit closer at how the money is being wasted.
So that's a good long-term goal to work towards, but in the short term, if you had to prioritize, where do you want to see county resources?
In the short term, we have the Immigrant fire, 15,000 acres. That could be harvested immediately. That would start bringing in millions of dollars within weeks or months immediately. So if we actively manage our lands, open up the recreational sites, again, those are jobs. And Blair Lake, for example, in the Cascades, burnt off in the 2022 fire. It had a new outhouse there. It had a dock. It's surrounded by dead trees now. Those should be cut. The areas should be opened. Those are a lot of jobs that should have been done that still need to be done. And we're talking decades of year-round, high-wage jobs that we used to do from World War II until the spotted owl that could be immediately restored.
All right, we have a phone call, so go ahead and bring up the listener line. Good morning. You are on the air with Dr. Zybach.
Well, good morning. And,
hello, Dick.
Thank you very much for your conversation. I appreciate it. I guess my question, I'll get there, is how do you, I'm trying to think how to put this without saying the wrong word, because it can be quite, you know what I mean? Okay, how do you convince these people, these idiot kids running around, where all their money went, why it's gone over the years? I worked a lot of years for Bohemia Lumber, and everything you're saying is right. But how are you going to convince these people that their money went because of the people they let into the state? You understand what I'm trying to say? It without getting angry.
I've already asked if I could use the word pissed off on this broadcast, and Cameron told me I could. It's not so much the people coming into the state, it's the lawyers going into court, it's the people in D.C. that have been writing these regulations that killed our industry. I had a reforestation crew for more than 20 years. We did 85,000 acres of reforestation work. No wildfires during that entire time. From 52 until 87, we had a single wildfire in western Oregon above 10,000 acres. Then we blocked off the woods. We went to litigation. We had the environmental movement based largely in Eugene at the beginning. Warner Creek in 1990 and 91 shut down the woods. Lawyers started making it rich, and now everything goes into litigation. So it's the environmental law industry that has really shut down our woods to the advantage of a few elites. The idea that they can do carbon sequestration and get credits for it because they think they can change the climate. There's no convincing those people. Those are true believers. And for the last 40 years, everybody that's moved into Oregon or everybody that's under 40 years of age think that these fires and this smoke and this unemployment and these degraded rural towns is normal. And we know that in the 60s and 70s and 80s, that was not the case. So restoring our forests, restoring good quality workers with good work ethics is key. And I think the government jobs that have subsidized homelessness and subsidized people not working have been detrimental. But the main problem has been the lack of jobs.
That's exactly right. In the beginning, the big thing with the timber companies were sue and settle. You know, they sued them if you yelled at one of their tree huggers.
Yep.
And then the people that come in through Eugene, we have a business here in town that supported them limp-tards. They were, a lot of them was from Denver. We followed their plates, Berkeley, California, that area, and they convinced these morons that, you know, what we have today is correct, and we know it's not.
Yep.
And we need to convince them that, you know, tourism isn't going to support our state. It's a piece of it, but it's not the big piece.
Yep. When I was in college, I was in recreational resources, and that was it. They were promoting that recreation would replace logging and forest management, and there was a lot of us that were dubious at the time, and there was a good reason. There's no way that it can do that. We've got a gold mine out here. Lane County is one of the most timber-rich counties in the world.
Well, I do have a suggestion: is quit voting them morons in office up in Salem.
All right. Thanks, Dick. Appreciate the call.
Have a nice day.
541-942-5548 if you'd like to join in with a question for Dr. Zybach this morning. All right, we want to talk about Clean Lane a little bit because the current incumbent that you're challenging has been roundly criticized for being an ardent supporter of that. The challenger that we spoke with preceding our conversation, Dr. Zybach, he's obviously very passionate about that. So whoever ends up with that seat, it's definitely going to be a continuing issue that you're going to have to contend with because the county embarked on this long-term contract. They have a piece of land that it looks like they're not going to be able to build the facility on, so they're going to have to go with a plan B, and even if this facility were to become operational someday, it's going to mean significantly higher costs for county residents. So what are your thoughts on Clean Lane?
Well, I think it's mostly a Eugene issue. It's not a very major issue when you consider the county as a whole.
But it's going to affect all of us.
Well, garbage does affect all of us, but so does smoke from wildfire affect all of us. So does large government taxes affect all of us. So does the lack of job opportunities affect all of us. All of these things affect all of us. So having a significant income from timber, as we used to have for decades, resolves a lot of these local problems. So Clean Lane is a problem, but TV Butte is a problem. I would say the restoration of Blue River in the McKenzie Valley is a much greater problem. The Dexter
but
Sanitary District is a problem. So each of those problems can be resolved with work and income and an informed citizenry.
Right, but in terms of the money that Lane County either has already spent or has committed to spending,
yep,
it's massive. So what would your approach be if you were a commissioner? How would you like to see us mitigate the issues with this?
I would go with the people that know that particular issue real well. The homeless issue, I have different feelings on, but Clean Lane is an issue. It is not the issue. We have greater issues. Wildfires and smoke are far greater issues. County income, schools and roads are far greater issues. A police force is a far greater issue. So garbage and recycling costs and wasted government spending are constant throughout everywhere. But not so much in East Lane County, where I'm representing. It is a forested area, and this excess in taxes or whatever that people are facing is something that can be looked at on a more generic level.
All right, we have another phone call. Good morning. Thanks for calling. You are on the Beeper Show.
Oh boy, I could talk with you for hours here. On the Clean Lane issue, briefly. There's never been a real serious engineering feasibility study done on that whole concept with no consideration of the duration and the technological change that's happening as we speak. Because what they were talking about already is obsolete and it's needed, but they aren't really, I don't see the depth of thought in that development idea. And then with our forests, you're talking a lot about habitat restoration that actually would bring back a lot of the diversity of life in the forest. And I agree that's actually paramount. That's why we have a forest. I mean, there's a lot more in the forest than trees. And then water is a big resource of what actually emanates from the forest. Without our forest, we don't have water. But the diversity of what we're planting back. For example, one of the things I don't see us really thinking about planting back are things like yew trees or other species, and going on with wood products, there's we have all residential construction, but there's much more that at OSU they've been principal in researchers in developing new ways of building commercial buildings with timber framing and such. So there's much more that can be done with all sorts of wood, and we need to be replanting all sorts of woods to handle everything from framing to sheathing to furniture, whatever. And now we're talking about local jobs. The reason we have a county budget problem is we don't have enough people working.
Yes.
And there are so many opportunities. I get a bit annoyed when we just export logs. We're not processing the logs here locally into things we really need. And that would go a long way to solving our county budget problems, but also take care of a good many of the problems with people that really don't have jobs to do, which brings back to schools. Where's the career technical on all these potential forestry jobs that are in and around and related to our forestry? This go on for a while. I'll just listen off air.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Bob.
To comment on that, we don't have people learning those jobs anymore because the jobs have not been there for 30 years. And the job training is on the job training is the way to do it. We used to have college students that would work as loggers in the summer or tree planters in the winter. I reforested my crews 85,000 acres over a 20-year period. We did prescribed burning, planting, animal trapping. There's year-round work that needs to be done that should have been done, and mentioning wildlife is really important. They say we're not logging because we want to have critical habitat for spotted owls or marbled murrelets or some kind of salamander, and it's all BS. And that's not Bachelor of Science. It's all being burnt up into wildfires, as I and many other people have been predicting for 30 years. It's killing those animals, and now they're finding out the smoke is killing the latest 41,000 people in the United States, 10,000 people on the East Coast from wildfire smoke from Canada, and 5,000 people in California with wildfire smoke from California, and those are federal lands that are burning up, not private lands. So putting an end to the fires and putting people back to work resolves almost all of the other problems we're talking about.
12 minutes in front of the 10 o'clock hour. Dr. Bob Zybach is with us. He is an East Lane County Commissioner candidate vying to unseat incumbent Heather Buch next year. And we're going to take a quick break, pay some bills, and we will chat further just ahead. 10 minutes in front of the top of the hour here. Dr. Bob Zybach is with me. He is a candidate for the East Lane seat on the Board of Lane County Commissioners. And if you would like to jump in with a question, you are welcome to join the conversation at 541-942-5548. So, Bob, another hot button issue you said you had some thoughts on is the homelessness crisis. So why don't we just dive right into that one? What are your thoughts on how the county should deal with that?
Well, when I was a kid and a young adult, we didn't have a homeless issue. We had hobo camps, which guys would travel by railroad and kind of keep to themselves and do odd jobs and probably petty theft and stuff. The homeless issue has been created by handouts, food stamps, people giving away clothing and tents, cities allowing camping on public property. And so it's largely a self-inflicted wound. It used to be that those people, if they were loitering, it was illegal, so they were put in jail. If they were drunk, they were put in a drunk tank. If they were mentally ill, they were put in the state hospital. That got closed down. And when I was very young, they still had county poor farms in Baker, Oregon. I think that closed when I was in first or second grade. So if it was a poor person that was living on the street, not because they had a drug problem or a mental health problem or a crime problem, but just destitute, they had a place to go and work in a garden and a place to care for them until they could get recovered. In the 30s, we had a lot of people that were homeless traveling around and picking crops and so on. And so that was a depression. But to have the wealth that we have now and to have this homeless issue should be a national and a local embarrassment. It's fairly easy to resolve. We used to know how to resolve it, and the reason that we don't anymore is an interesting question.
Would you really like to see Lane County take on operating something like a poor farm that we used to see back during the Great Depression? Do you think that's a viable solution at this point?
Probably not, but giving people jobs or option a jail or moving them off the streets are certainly things that could be done, and then people could decide whether they wanted to work or if they were having troubles. I think we should have state hospitals caring for people, and I think we should have facilities to hold people overnight till they sober up, get them off the streets. That's not good, having people on the streets, sleeping on the streets. That's a bad situation.
All right, we got another call. Good morning. You're on the air with Bob Zybach.
Good morning, Cameron. Good morning, Bob. Hey, I'd like to say it's refreshing to hear somebody talk like they give a hoot about the forests in Oregon. And I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, but boy, it sure seems true anymore. I think that it's really important that as a society as a whole, that we need to remember the past. And I'd like to remind everybody that back in the day when we had abundances of resources coming out of those forests, we used to set aside a reserve fund in our local school district.
Yep.
That reserve school fund is what bought the property that the high school is sitting on now. When the bond came up for that high school, if we'd have had to pay for that property when they passed the bond that finally passed, they'd have never got that school built.
Yep.
If they'd have had to buy the property, they'd have never got the school built. So, people really don't understand how much of a resource we've left sitting up there on the hill to burn.
Yep.
And it's sad. It's really sad. But it's out of honesty. I mean, you look around and some of these people, like our illustrious county commissioner, she wasn't even around then.
Yep.
These people are so young, they don't even remember the concept of cutting and manufacturing a tree, and then the money goes to the federal government, and then it comes from the federal government back to the state government, back to the county government, back to the city government.
Yep.
And we all win.
Yep.
And we've completely forgotten these concepts. But folks, really, we used to finance our governments with money coming out of the forest, out of the ground. We need to get back to utilizing our resources in a very sustainable but useful way.
That's the law.
And we need to get the corruption out of our government, for crying out loud, so that when we have the money, we can utilize it properly. And it's just refreshing to hear an older person talking about the way governments used to be. And so I'd really like to thank you for that, Bob. And I'd really like to tell our citizens in Lane County, come on, folks, we've really got to get back to what brought us to the successes that we had in the 70s and the 80s.
All right, appreciate the phone call. Got another line ringing in. Good morning. Thank you for calling. You're on the Beeper Show with Dr. Bob Zybach.
This is Larry again, Cameron.
Yeah.
The gentleman that was just on there, he needs to get a big applause.
Yep.
Said exactly what needs to be done.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Give him a hand.
Thank you, sir.
And I also want to say that Bob here, I think I'll vote for him. So bye-bye.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the Beeper Show. You are on the air.
Yeah, I want to jump back in again on the homeless issue. That's another problem that we've largely manufactured over the last 40 years, and there are a lot of. We had some ideas of what to do in the 80s, and we didn't follow through. But it's a problem that we are continuing to create, especially by not having, not so much, underemployment, but we also have jobs that don't have the income for families, working families, and they're not able to give the child care. If you wind our homeless problem back before those individuals didn't have a problem, you find yourself in early child development, and which is not there. And if it's not there in the first 5 years, you would set yourself up for a whole cascade of evolving problems that go into young adulthood.
Okay, Jimmy, I hate to cut you short here, but do you have a question for Bob? Because we're running out of time.
Well, the thing is, okay, there are two aspects of the problem. They're the current homeless, and they're homeless we're creating. And a lot of this actually comes back to we're in school districts or our educational system, and getting people dried out of whatever they're abusing, but getting them to a point where they're employable. And we're nowhere close in what's needed, and that actually everything goes back to creating more jobs here to create the support for everything. Do you have a team of people working with you on this, the essentially community ecology approach that you're taking?
The National Wildfire Alliance, and I'm one of the younger people, and it's for the reasons that they're saying, is that the last 40 years this homeless problem got created. For the last 40 years we've had wildfires and smoke. And one gentleman said 70s and 80s were better, and I'm old enough to say the 50s and 60s were also much better. And all of us that are older,
I can remember that too.
Yeah, we had good school.
Do you have a website or something?
Yes.
If I just go to your name, I don't have a current phone number. I can find that. But.
Yep. The website is easy to find. Just put my name in, and I've got two websites.
Spell that last name, Bob.
Zybach. And the Oregon websites is a 501c3. It's 30 years old. Northwest Maps Company is 32 years old. So, and then I've got a new campaign website, Zybach for Lane, ZYBACHFORLANE.
Okay,
well,
Jimmy, thank you for that. Bob, couple of more things I want to cover real quick as we wrap things up here today. Okay. Land Management Division. There's been lots of talk about how that could be reformed to help folks, say, for example, rebuild from the 2020 Labor Day fires or any of the other improvements that people might want to do with their property. It seems like everybody that's dealt with the Land Management Division has a horror story to one degree or another. So from a policy standpoint, what are some things that you think the county could do to improve that?
Well, I think they could fire the existing staff because they are incompetent, as everybody said, and maybe they're incompetent because of the rules or things they have to follow.
But they say they're just interpreting the state laws.
Exactly. So that's always the excuse of people that that's why our woods are burning up. They're only following federal laws. So either the laws need to be looked at and changed because they're debilitating and costly, but mostly we need more experienced people in there that know about land issues. We don't have a forester, for example, and yet most of the county is forest, one of the most forested counties in the world. And so we need expertise there, we need common sense there, and the regulations that are causing these problems are the same regulations that cause homelessness or cause wildfires. We've become overly regulated over the last 40 years, and the point is that anybody that's been here less than 40 years thinks this is normal. It is not normal, and it starts with the regulations, and then it goes with the bureaucrats that we pay too much money to enforce the regulations that aren't based in reality.
All right, if you are elected, how are you going to keep in touch with your constituents?
Phone, email, internet, just we've got really good systems now for communicating, so that's not a problem.
So are you also going to be interested in like doing coffee with constituents, one-on-one personal meetings, that sort of things? Because as you mentioned, there's issues all over the county, and they're not always the ones that get a lot of attention in the mainstream press. But they are nonetheless very important to people, and you're gonna be talking to people that may not always agree with your point of view.
I talk with people that don't agree with my point of view a lot, and I've already been doing that. I've been going around East Lane County and having coffee or beer with key people and discussing the local issues, and that's how I become familiar with them. And that's also created my concern with the lack of Jake and Heather's lack of understanding of these issues, because they haven't talked to those folks. But yes, it's the local folks, the people at the library, the people at the Historical Society, at the school, the old timers that know what the problems are and have solutions.
All right, so people, just one more time before we conclude, for people that want to learn a little bit more about you and your candidacy, give us your website one more time.
Campaign website is Zybach for Lane, ZYBACH as in hello, FORLANE.
Okay. Bob, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate your dropping in and hanging out with us this morning for a while.
Thank you, Cameron. I've enjoyed it.
All right. Dr. Bob Zybach, who is running for the East Lane seat on the County Board of Commissioners. Thank you, Dr. Zybach, and also thanks to Jake Pelroy for joining us in the last hour of our extended Wednesday morning Beeper Show.